All right, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Real Chums. I'm your host, Marcel, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Danny.
What is up, guys? In this episode, we are going to be discussing Batman 89 and Batman Returns. And with us is a special guest, Sean Kemple, the man, the myth, the legend. Sean, we want to know, so Sean is one of my a buddy of mine, a coworker, partner in crime, whatever you want to call him. And so I wanted to know, what is your relationship with these two movies?
How do I follow up an introduction like that? Well, my relation with these two movies are that I guess I was a kid when these movies came out because I'm the old guy here. So I feel like I at least have the experience of firsthand, Anyway.
Okay. Let me ask a better question. Because we talked a little bit about it. For Batman 89, you didn't go see it in theaters, right?
I didn't because compared to what's out there now, it's hard to believe this, but that was considered a pretty violent movie at the time because at that point we had 60s Batman for reference. So,
yeah, right.
So I didn't see it until it came out on video. But for whatever reason, my parents let me rent it the day it came out on video, even though I didn't get to go see it in the theater.
Right.
But
Parents are weird.
Parents are weird.
I know.
Now, Batman Returns, did you see that in theaters?
Yes, I did see that in theaters. Probably a couple times.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I want to know, what was that like?
I mean, I remember it being hyped up, kind of like how 89 was, so I was excited to see it. I can't remember if I saw it opening weekend or not, but still, it was full hype. I mean, I remember rumors between the two movies of Danny DeVito being the Penguin even several years before that, and then there were also rumors of Robin Williams playing Riddler at some point too. That was a big thing.
We can talk about this when we get to the movie.
Yeah.
It's hot, nasty drama.
Right. And I remember me and my friends talking about that before Returns even came out. So I guess, I was hyped for Returns when it came out.
Well, we are so excited to have you on the show today as one of our first guests. So we are so happy.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
I do. I have a question for all three of you because apparently this is the thing I do. Okay, so you're picking up Michelle Pfeiffer as the Batman on a date. What bat vehicle are you taking on this date?
Okay.
Do we need to review the bat vehicles?
I mean,
are we just talking about in those two movies?
Yeah, in those two movies.
Oh,
just
okay.
in those two movies.
Yes.
I was going to say the 60s Batmobile.
That's a way cooler Batmobile, let's be honest.
It can at least turn.
You don't need a grappling hook to help
right.
you.
I know. Trash. For reals, though.
I mean, does the first one have? Oh yeah, no. Vicky Vale writes in the first one, right?
Yeah.
There's true.
You gonna take both girls?
I mean, I love that first Batmobile, even though it's like 100 feet long. It's just the aesthetic of it is so cool.
It is so cool.
And I think is it practical? Absolutely not. But it looks so cool.
But it's still awesome.
Yeah, it looks so rad. I love it.
Okay, so Batmobile for Marcel. Sean, what are you doing? What are you taking?
I'll go with the bat plane from 89.
Oh, man.
Since you can, go above the moon and make the bat symbol on it.
I know.
And just fly over Gotham and all that.
You're for sure getting a first kiss.
That's right.
I was also going to say the Batwing because of those same reasons. It's the coolest.
No one wants to take the sewer.
Oh, you know what, guys?
Yeah.
I changed my mind. I'm taking the Ducky.
The ducky. Okay.
Oh,
I'm taking the Penguin Ducky. All right. That's my question for the episode.
But yeah, thanks for everyone that's listening, giving us 5-star ratings. That helps us be found on the charts.
For sure.
And we're getting mail. So thanks to listeners that are sending in mail. Great suggestions.
If you want to send us anything, you can email us at realchums.com.
But let's dig into Batman 89 and Batman Returns. I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk Batman 89.
Okay.
And then have a good conversation there. And then we'll jump into Returns, and then at the end we'll just kind of summarize our feelings and thoughts on these two movies.
Deal.
But let's talk, and Sean, you already kind of went into this, but let's talk a little bit more of what is our experience, first impressions from the first movie. And Danny, I'd love to hear more on how you were impacted by Batman 89.
Deal. I'll be honest with you. I don't remember Batman 89 as well as I do Batman Returns. So I don't know. I honestly don't remember when I first watched 89. I'm pretty positive I watched Batman Returns first. But I remember what I think one of my biggest things is I remember Jack Nicholson and his mannerisms. And even rewatching it when I rewatched it for this episode, I was like, it felt, I mean, part of it is like, because I was coming from the Batman, the animated series. And I mean, Mark Hamill voices Joker. And I just felt like he gave, even though it wasn't Mark Hamill, he kind of embodied what Mark Hamill was doing in the animated series. Or maybe Mark Hamill was embodying what Jack Nicholson was doing. Yeah, you
saw it a little
backwards. There, you're right. But
do you remember though? Do you remember watching the animated series first?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. I remember Jack Nicholson just thinking that it was just did such a great job as the first generation Joker in a live action.
Yeah. Sean, what about you? I know you kind of touched on this, but any additional impressions, thoughts, feelings from?
Well, just like I said, it was a big movie that year. That summer when it came out, I was 10 years old, and then I was telling Danny this the other day that when it came out on video, it was actually the day before my 11th birthday.
Oh, okay.
And so I had it reserved at the rental store, and me and my best friend, because that year my parents did it like every other year was a party, and the off year was a family party, but they let me have one friend over. So me and him watched the film and probably had pizza or something, something along those lines for my 11th birthday. And I was just blown away by the movie. I thought it was really good. I mean, obviously at that age, some things were on the violent side, I guess, and I could see why it had that criticism when it came out, especially when, like I said, you were comparing it to like 60s Batman and cartoon, so it was a very different take on Batman at the time.
Sure.
Do you feel like it impacted you at all? Like it being like classified as what, something that wasn't, what old Batman was.
Yeah, definitely not that way. But I mean, summer of '89 was a big year for movies too. You had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Right. You had Ghostbusters 2. You had Batman. You had it's almost so like there was a lot going on that year.
Man, that was a big year.
That's true.
Thanks for putting that context. Yeah, I didn't realize that was like the summer of movies. Almost.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah,
I think often like Star Wars is what's credited as like the big blockbuster movie, but I think like it was Batman that like really solidified that aspect of like big blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
And even though there was heavy competition that year,
right,
it was Batman that kind of took it and really solidified like, okay, like there is such a thing as big blockbusters. And I think it was through Batman. I
guess this is one of the questions I have for you. Do you remember it being talked about like because it was like a superhero movie? Like, was there like a weird discussion? Was there, what am I trying to ask?
There probably was some of that. Like where I was younger, I wasn't watching a lot of the media stuff about it. But I mean, I think up to that point, the biggest superhero movie was Christopher Reeves' Superman.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
And that was very lighthearted compared to this.
Right. That's crazy to think about what that era of having this be more of a darker tone and Batman introducing what that meant. I think is kind of an impactful feeling and perhaps did set the tone. I think for
1,000%
for everything, all these movies that have, especially some of the DC stuff.
Oh yeah.
Maybe they're especially with someone like Zack Snyder. I wonder how much of an impact they were like. Well, if we go dark and gritty, we'll really captivate more people or something. Not to say that it worked, that's a discussion for another day.
I feel like it went that way probably because of this movie, that's kind of set the tone, at least for those of us that grew up, in that time, because, Warner Brothers, they did a complete 360 after Returns and changed the tone. But
and it's great because like it gave the success of Batman, gave studios like, I guess maybe the confidence to like try. I mean, you ended up getting The Phantom. Was it The Phantom with what's his name? You guys remember that movie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Batman, the animated Phantom movie.
No,
No, it's
the
like
purple guy.
the old
Yeah.
the cartoon serials, right?
Yeah.
So like I think it gave studios like the confidence to be like, oh, there's money in here.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's
For sure.
try it. Even though there was like a lot of like failures after that.
Right, yeah.
But a lot of I think what we have today and the blueprint, especially I think, the blueprint of origins superhero movies goes back a lot to this one. I think.
For sure. All right, what did you guys think about the actual Gotham? And can we put this in both? Well, I guess they're kind of different.
They are different.
They're different.
So
Yeah.
so you actually had two different set designers from the first one to the second one, and they do feel different. I think for me, and I think this is the first time, at least on screen, where Gotham is really portrayed as like this dark, gritty, dirty place, right? Whereas the 60s, like it was groovy, man. Like it was such a fun time. Everyone's having a good time in the 60s. Whereas now, like we come into like this, like gothic, neo-gothic city, and it feels dirty.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think that's something that, like, I don't want to make too many comparisons with like the new Batmans, but like if you look at like Batman versus Superman, the Zack Snyder one, right? Gotham just feels like any other town in like any other large city in USA.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a character of its own, where I think this one really gave it that tone.
Yeah. Because we watched these back to back, I felt like I definitely felt that there was a cost difference in like what they were trying to do. And I think that what they did with the city of Gotham was actually pretty great. I mean, obviously it's miniature. They did like a more of a miniature feel, but it's one of the only Batman films, I think. We have the next series of Batmans, but where they went with more Neo style. But this Gotham did feel like, I think they did feel more of like what maybe the comic book they were trying to go like match some of the comic book feel, and did make it a little bit more dirtier. Is it okay if I talk about Batman in this Gotham? Is that part of the Gotham feel?
Yeah.
Because I feel like I found it really interesting that Bruce Wayne wasn't like well known.
It's such a unique take on it. Like he's known in the sense that like he's throwing this big party, and like the mayor's there, the commissioner, like the big people of Gotham are there, but like an average reporter doesn't know.
Yeah, like people didn't. They're like, oh, Bruce Wayne who?
Yeah,
Right.
It is such a unique
trying
take
to find him in the house and all that.
Right, like they don't have normally, right, in the comics he's Gotham's poster boy. Yeah. And in this movie, like he's just like kind of like a nobody, and they don't explain that whether he's been away or not. Like I know there's like a comment from like Vicky Vale, like, oh, you guys are leaving and I'll see you when you get back, and Alfred says like, no, we're here for a while. It's almost hinting like if he was away, but it's so interesting. It's such a different take and the approach on him.
That one change did shift Gotham, even though it still was a character in the films. I feel like it changed the overall feeling, particularly to some degree, in how Batman and Bruce Wayne's their character plays to the city.
Yeah.
And what the impact is, right?
Yeah, I really like the look of it, and like you said, though, it's like more miniature, but I feel like it's a bit more expansive in some of the shots as compared to Returns.
Yeah.
Though.
Even like the museum scene.
Yeah.
Like the museum in the city of Gotham is an old abandoned like train station.
Right.
That's like turned into a museum / restaurant, and it's such a cool feel to Gotham. Anyway, I love Gotham in these movies.
Yeah. Yep. Me too.
Let's talk about casting. We have Michael Keaton as Batman, Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Who plays Vicky Vale?
Kim
Basinger.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other movie is she in? Was she like?
She was a Bond girl in one of.
That's
I think
right.
it was the
In
Sean Connery
yes.
one that was.
That's
Came out in
right.
the 80s. I can't remember the name of it now.
The one that was like a remake of.
Yeah. It wasn't like an official Bond movie, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then I think before that she was mostly a model and some of those things.
Did you know though, like someone else had been casted as Vicky Vale.
Oh.
And then like a few weeks prior, she like broke her collarbone on just like riding a horse, and so they brought in Kim last minute to fill in.
Yeah, that was Sean Young who was cast.
That's right.
And she really wanted to be Catwoman after that. And there's a clip
Yeah.
of her on a.
She
it might
shows
have been Oprah, and she's like in full Catwoman garb, and Yeah.
She showed up for like the second one when they were casting for returns. She shows up in a full Catwoman suit to his office. She's like, "Yeah, let's do this." And Tim was like, "Nah, you're out of here."
Oh,
Yeah.
that's brutal.
Especially one of those missed opportunities where that had to happen in a scene that ended up not even in the movie.
Yeah.
And then
you know, it's funny to see that I think there's some degree of some people wanting to play in the Marvel universe, but even I think now with some of them who've been in it for such a long time, where they're like they're waiting, they can't wait to get out.
Yeah.
right.
But seeing that's just crazy. All right.
Real quick, we talk about Michael Keaton.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the studio wanted Mel Gibson to be Bruce Wayne.
Ooh.
So I mean, this is like action
Yeah.
star, like
Right. He'd been in Lethal Weapon at that
He'd been
point.
Lethal
I think,
Weapon by that
and,
point, yeah.
and some of those.
They offered the role. So that's who the studio wanted. They also offered the role to Ray Liotta,
Who's Ray Liotta?
Goodfellas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Field of Dreams. So he actually ended up not doing it and did Goodfellas instead. They also offered the role, and he straight up like turned it down. Pierce Brosnan.
Ooh.
I actually would have liked to have seen that. A Pierce Brosnan Bruce Wayne, especially like late 80s,
British
early
Batman.
90s.
Wait, what?
British Batman.
British? Well, I mean, he can do an American
Yeah, he can do
He
American
could.
accent, yeah.
Yeah.
But he straight up just turned it
knows?
down, and he's like, "Yeah, this isn't for me."
Yeah, I wonder if he regrets that.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I don't know. Is that still? I don't know if that's the timeline of when he was in Remington Steele or what. Because that was why he had to pass on James Bond
James
the
Bond
first
originally,
time.
yeah.
To Timothy Dalton, and then he took it up later.
But Michael Keaton. So, and also you asked about this, like, what was kind of like the news that was happening at the time around it?
Yeah.
When he was cast, Warner Brothers received over 50,000 letters of people like petitioning to not have him be.
What was to not be Batman?
Yeah, which I mean, like 50,000 doesn't sound like a lot in Twitter world, right? But like
At the time, though, when
the time,
you have to physically
to
wite a
write
letter
it,
and mail it,
look
and-
up the address,
that's
and
a
mail
lot.
it in. That is
Yeah.
a lot.
I just had the flashback to Sleepless in Seattle when the kid gets all the mail, and literally it's probably like maybe just 20, and it's like a stack, this big. The fact that the 50,000, that's crazy.
That's a lot.
What was did Michael Keaton have something before this?
He was known for mainly for Mr. Mom.
Yeah, comedy movies, and
movies.
so that's I think part of the reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can get access of like to the screenplay, but like the screenplay says that Batman is this tall, brooding. Bruce Wayne is a tall, brooding individual with scars all over his back and whatnot, and like you don't get that kind of presence from him in the movie. Like he's just the guy in like a black turtleneck. Like that's who Batman is, or Bruce Wayne is in these movies. It's just the guy in a black turtleneck.
That it really is what it is. Here's my thing. Like I said, I think Bruce in this casting, I do think that like Michael Keaton did a pretty good job. I think he ends up shining more in the next one. We can talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think that the studio was probably a little nervous because he doesn't have a ton of lines.
None, not many. And again, like this movie feels more like Joker has a greater story arc than Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. Is this? Sorry, I was gonna say, is this the first Joker? Like, because that's what it felt like. Well, I guess we could talk about Jack Nicholson.
Boy, just to me, he was just amazing in the role. And this is probably the first movie I ever saw him in. I hadn't seen The Shining at that point, or anything like that. Like I have now. But
yeah.
I thought he was amazing. Just totally into the part and everything, and just acted crazy. Although it's not the same level of crazy we've seen these days, but it was at the time that was.
It's creepy, and I think this last watch, what I really liked was you have Jack, who's just this cool swab having an affair with his boss's girl, right? wants to move up his way and take ownership of the crime family. But then like when he becomes Joker, that scene with the surgeon, and he laughs maniacally and leaves. And then when he shows up to the, I can't remember the boss's name, he's still talking like a little bit like Jack. Like he's still kind of composed and like calm, goes crazy shooting him. But it was really cool to see like Jack's decision to like slowly go down this downward spiral of like
becoming the Joker.
The Joker, right? He's not the Joker right away. Like his tones, his mannerisms, the way he even changes like his voice, like slowly changes from that first scene we see him. And I thought that was cool. Like it's just
and that
slowly.
works great where that first scene he's in shadow talking to Jack Palance and and then comes out of the shadow, and that's when he kind of goes a little crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like his reveal was so great. Like, bringing him in. The thing that I found, as I kept watching, I just kept feeling how much he influenced some of the base characteristics of all the other Jokers that have come. At some parts, I would feel like, I can see why Heath Ledger decided to kind of go with like the style of like his Joker, and then who's the Suicide Squad?
Jared Leto. Yeah.
Where Jared Leto, I felt like he was on the other side of where Jack Nicholson was, like more Playboy-y style. I think still Jack Nicholson kills it as like more of the hysterical, jokey Joker that we kind of see in the comics.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and I wish not to say that I don't love Heath Ledger's Joker or anything, but like that. I feel like it really did solidify. It was such a great feel, in my opinion, because I think my the giant revolver, with the push, that was ridiculous.
It is, but it like fits the Joker, and then but then it's also still super deadly too. It takes down the Batwing, and
that's what's so great about like this Joker's that he has the actual gadgets, like the little toys. I mean, like he has the toys, and they're so funny to see, like the gun that just shoots Bane.
Yes,
right.
The mouth that's laughing, like it's
or the hand buzzer though that then fries the guy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That's probably one of my favorite scenes.
I love his little toys in the movie.
And I think that like we have not had that in a Batman since, and I like it. Kind of it makes me like rewatching '89. And Jack Nicholson with these gadgets really just solidifies where some of the and even with Batman Returns, but like where some of the character, like the Batman's nemesi, they, not that they're bad in the other movies, but they've become more down to earth. Whereas Batman has kind of become more not mythological, but like more, they've done better with like what they're doing with his suits and things like that. Right. And I just want them to bring back some more like Jack Nicholson style.
And even though like with that though, like even though the movies are in comparison to like the 60s, right? It's a darker one. It's still a campy movie.
Oh,
like it's still and I love there are times I noticed this last watch, like there are times where like Tim Burton decides to like do a low angle shot when like Harvey Dent comes out, which we haven't talked about.
Billy D. I know.
Oh my gosh! But when Harvey Dent comes out for the first time and like he does like a lower angle tilted shot, reminiscent
very
of like
Dutch.
Yeah, and it looks looks funny. Like it's campy, like the way that he even decided to like do some of the shots, maybe as an homage to the 60s one, but like the movie itself is a bit campy. I will say though, like going back to like the feel for the movie, it feels timeless with like with the set, with the wardrobe, until Prince comes on. I think that's just what ruins it for me. Like once Prince comes on, I'm like, okay, like this is clearly a product of the 80s, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
But I love everything. It's just Prince just kind of throws me off.
Have
in
you
this
ever
movie.
watched the music video that goes with it?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, just checking.
I have not.
I haven't in years, but or probably
Oh, we'll
decades.
We'll put a link to it on the show notes.
We'll do a reaction.
We should do
Do a reaction. We'll record a reaction
Yeah.
and post it to the YouTube channel.
I mean, it's this is one of the first movies I remember. Which for me, I love film scores. So the Danny Elfman score in this was right up there with
Yes.
you know,
Legendary.
and- yeah,
Yes.
exactly. But it also had a dual soundtrack with just the Prince music, and so you could buy both. You know, I've always owned the score, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. But
Well, yeah, actually, that's a great point. I did feel, even though, I mean, it feels dated in the sense of like, not the effects. I felt like the fact that it was a lot of the stuff was practical. It
Yeah, it
still
holds up pretty well,
It
I
holds
think,
up
but-
super well.
Yeah.
Obviously, like there's the scene, they're using miniatures, and
What, he crashes?
yeah, and he crashes, and I legit thought, I'm like, I wonder if like with all the technology we have today, if we could recreate that scene and make it feel even a little bit more like realistic.
Oh yeah.
You know, but because of those like small or those principles that were so that were utilized in a lot of films at the time, I think, you know, it holds up well. If you're just like watching, if you're like a kid, like none of that really like, I
No.
mean, it doesn't phase you. I think when you're watching the first time, it's still like, man, this is fantastic. Looking back now, obviously we have like, you know, crazy stuff that's, we have Avatar, but it just goes to show how much practical really is sometimes maybe taking the effort to not do digital can really just provide a legacy for the film.
Exactly.
That no other, that just because you can create some, a magical creature and makes it look, for right now, when you go back and look at it, people might think it, it might be cringe, which, like it would be interesting to watch, some of the other movies that, started adding more CG. I mean, you can't, I can't do it, but I can't, Scorpion, even when it came out, Scorpion with The Rock.
Oh yeah.
Was
The
pretty-
Mummy Returns.
The
Yeah.
Mummy Returns.
It's the worst.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Was rough, and watching it now, like I don't know if they've done any retouchments on like a digital version, but I'm sure it's not pretty.
No.
Looking at it now, so I just think that it's a huge feat to the team and what they're doing.
Before we jump, we got to get to Batman Returns. But before we jump to Batman Returns, thoughts on the fact that they changed the origin of the Joker and I guess of Batman with Jack being the one that kills his parents.
Yeah.
How I remember when I first watched that, I was like, I don't know if I like that. Because there's I mean now they've obviously said like Joe Chill or in some other comic book stories others have killed Bruce's parents, but like the anonymity.
That's a hard word. I feel you. You said it. You were going there, and I was like, I'm not the guy saying that word.
The anonymity of just who killed his parents has always fascinated me, right? And at times it being left as a unsolved murder.
Yeah.
But now as an adult, like, and of course he has that line where like you created me and then I created you by dropping you in the vat of toxins, whatever. But how do we like that? Does that create like a greater connection between Batman and Joker? Even though like I think, and it feels like Tim Burton was just like, you know what, I'm only gonna get budget to do one movie. I'm just gonna throw all my chips on the table and do this and kill him off, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting take.
See, for me, it was my first take, I guess. And
Okay,
to me, it makes it more personal,
Right.
the story that way. But I didn't know there was any other. I don't know if there was at that point or how it was done in comics.
Yeah.
Up to that point. But
No, I think that's actually a really interesting thought. Like having people who were like comic buffs at that time watching that
right.
movie.
Yeah, I'd be curious what someone that like was steeped in the comic lore felt about it.
If you were someone who watched this movie and you were a comic buff, please send us a message because we would love to know.
I like it. I think it creates that connection between the two, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe even along the lines, you were talking about no one knew who Bruce Wayne was. Maybe that kind of goes through. I could see him being a recluse, trying to, build up all the Batman gear and everything to go take Jack down at that point. But,
it's. I think it depends on the day for me. Some days I think, when I was watching it the other day, I was like, man, this is like, I'm not sure how I feel about it. But like this morning when I was, trying to finish Batman Returns, and I was thinking back to 89, I was just like, the thing is, like, Joker's always been a mystery in the comic book world. That's why the Joker was kind of like an interesting movie, because like it was trying to put a origin story to this person. And we're getting that to a degree with, this Joker.
Yeah.
And, but the idea of like, maybe there was that personal connection, even the comic, that like somewhere down the line, there was a connection between the Joker and the Joker knows who Batman is. And that's why they're like the two pieces that are always just fighting each other. Right. And it sucks to a degree that like, like in this one, I think 100%, like if could you imagine if Joker had been not killed off because like, he didn't want to put, you didn't want to make it a big, because I think he needed to be killed off. I think it was a good perspective, but because he didn't know what was going to happen. So like, he wasn't thinking in like what, let's make it.
How can I bring him back?
Yeah. But
although there were hints after that, like maybe Joker would come back, Jack Nicholson would come back, even though it never happened.
I know, but could you imagine in Batman Returns? That would have been wild.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I would believe it though. When he falls off that building, you would think after falling like 50 stories off, like his body would just like explode. But no, he falls perfectly in there.
Sure.
And I love the fact that I like to think headcanon that as he's falling, he opens up his jacket, turns on his laughing thing, and he's like, "All right, let's just do it." And then he crashes, and just the little laughing sound is just he intentionally turned it on as he's about to die. Yeah. He would totally do that.
He would do that.
Yep.
So good. I guess let's switch over to Batman Returns. Marcel, what's your experience with this movie?
Yeah. I similar to you. I'm pretty sure I saw this before I saw Batman. And as a little kid, I think the idea of multiple villains is always exciting. Like, ooh, Batman's going to take on not just one, but we're going to take on several villains. I think that was also very exciting. I love that it takes place in Christmas. I remember as a kid being like, this is cool, like villains during like Christmas time.
Yeah.
But I do remember feeling like it was just long and as a kid, and just feeling like, oh, I think I like the first one more just because it has the Joker. I think the Joker element is what always like brings me back to the original Batman.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, the excitement of multiple villains was always just so fun for me. And him taking on more and seeing more of that like story or more of that world develop itself. But I love it. I think as an adult, I don't think I love it as much as I did as a kid.
Ooh, interesting.
And we'll talk about it. But yeah, I don't think I love it. I love it now more. Yeah, I think I like the first one more.
Sean, where you at?
Boy, so when this one came out, I saw it in the theater. I would have been about 13. Like I said, I do remember the hype on it, and the idea of multiple villains I thought was awesome. It is hard to top the Joker, though. I definitely agree with you there. And I remember liking it, but I also did think it was weird that it was set at Christmas and it was a summer movie. So that was a little strange.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I put it probably just slightly below 89 as far as rank wise, but I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about you, Danny?
So we had a Blockbuster in Hollywood Video in my town. We would often go to the Hollywood Video, and I'm not exactly sure why. I don't know if it's because like if Blockbuster had like higher prices or if it was just like the Latino thing. Like, I don't know why, but I feel like that might be more the case that like whatever, like they were like, friends were like, oh, you should go to Hollywood Video, way better than Blockbuster.
I think he got an extra day at Hollywood Video or something like that. I can't
maybe
remember.
that's what it was. I
Something
don't-
like that, or maybe it was $1 cheaper at Hollywood.
Who knows?
Yeah. Anyway, beside the point.
But I remember vividly like walking down the aisles and like trying to pick movies and seeing Batman Returns and the VHS with their heads and being like, oh, Batman, let's watch this, right? And then watching it and like loving every ounce of every character.
Yeah.
Loving Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman, loving Danny DeVito as the Penguin, I just forgot his name. Christopher Walken.
Oh, yeah.
As Shreek.
Shrek, yeah.
Shrek.
Yep.
Obviously not like a canon character, or in the at least not that I know of in the Batman series, but phenomenal as like just another player in this space. I think I don't know for a fact, but I want to say it probably was around wintertime when I watched this movie. And so like maybe just felt like, oh, this is great. I think Gotham, like the whole experience of like Gotham at Christmas, the like interesting moments and beats, whatever. And obviously we get more of the Bat vehicles in this film. And so I think that there was just more of that was fun. So like to me, this is probably one of like, this solidified my love of probably comics movies.
Oh, okay.
From that point forward, I was like, no, I'm committed to comic book movies. I'm committed to comics or to like superheroes or whatever. Like I'm here for it.
A little context with that. This movie, the first Batman, had a budget of $35 million.
Oh, I was going to ask about this. Okay.
Second one had a budget of $80 million.
I think alone, Tim Burton should get props for killing it with that budget, with what he did, and then really bringing it home on this second one.
Okay.
Not to say that like it's better or anything, but what I think is like he put all of his chips in a basket, and it's like, like YOLO on 89.
No, he straight up said like, this is my movie, like especially with the second one, right? Like,
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
they gave him free reign, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do what I want with this movie.
Yeah.
I will say though, like the second one, Batman Returns, it really feels for me like it takes place like in a big set
On one lane in Gotham?
Right.
It's like a 3-block radius. Like that's all we see in this movie is just a 3-block radius, from Gotham Plaza to a couple like blocks around the corner, and it just doesn't. I don't feel like it has the scale, but it at the same time it doesn't in other factors. It just feels like it's very contained and small.
Yeah.
In that aspect.
You're not wrong. Can we please talk about penguins in Gotham?
Oh boy.
Please, just like 2 minutes. Come on, people. What is up with the penguins? Like, did they just like having a plethora of penguins in the zoo, and they're like, you know what? These are like multiplying like rabbits. Let's just throw them in the river. Like, what is happening?
Yeah, what?
They just migrate south to Gotham in the winter.
Because every zoo that I go to, there's always like 4, and then all the other ones are locked behind lock and key.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah, the penguins, the whole storyline of how we're gonna kidnap the kids, the firstborns, and then the penguins are gonna bring him and like dump him in this like river full of like toxic waste. such a evil master plan, I guess.
Yep.
It's so unique. But Danny DeVito just
Slays it as the penguin.
kills it. Yeah, I love it. He is so good. The makeup on him, his approach, and I remember when I first watched Batman, the first one, and the scene when the 2 scenes that obviously frightened me the most was when he goes to the surgeon and smashes
Yeah.
him,
Yep.
right? and at the end when he's dead on the ground, I think it was the first time I'd seen in a movie a dead character with their eyes open, and that just creeped the heck out of me. But Danny DeVito is just creepy, pervy, and just a horrible like.
He's well committed.
He's a horrible human being, which historically, up to this point in the comic books, Penguin was more of like a crime boss leader, right?
Yeah.
And he dealt weapons and whatever. And when he got arrested, he would go to Blackgate, just Blackgate jail, not necessarily go to
Arkham.
To Arkham. But this guy fits, like, he will fit perfectly in Arkham.
No, the costume design alone in this film.
Oh, yeah.
Tim Burton, 100% Tim Burton. I mean, Tim Burton's always going to be, he's always going over the top on costume designs, on what he's doing for his films.
And the bat suit looks so much better this time around. It doesn't, it looks so much better. It's such a cool design.
Maybe that's where the other half of the budget went.
That's probably true.
Was the new bat suit. But.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the bat suit for a second. Because the bat suit, I mean, Michael Keaton, like, because of, this is the first time they're doing superhero movies, they're trying to figure, like, the whole piece is one rubber.
Oh, yeah.
It, like, literally, it was, I mean, in Batman 89, I'm pretty sure, like, there was no flexibility, right? I'm sure from that point on, they started investing in technology, trying to figure out, like, okay, costume set designs, like, how can we make this slightly more flexible?
So he doesn't have to do a whole body turn to look left or right.
And even, like, in the fighting sequences, especially the first one, were so limited.
Yeah.
He has grappling hook. I guess his best way, this version of Batman fights with grappling hooks.
There's the guy with the knives flying at him, and then he just punches him, or just puts his hand out.
He pulls out some kind of metal thing and just stops him. I'm like, okay, that's a cool gadget, I guess. That works.
It's true. Oh man.
But yeah, I think we see more fighting in the second one, and it'd be curious to see how much more flexibility the costume was in in Returns than it was in the first.
Yeah.
Although at times I'm like, it looks cooler, but it seems like you're just as limited as you were in the first one.
I mean, that was the battle they had to face, Yep. And I think rewatching it, I did appreciate that they did have more scenes with Batman fighting. I mean, even it's not winning any action, awards from us over here at Real Chums, but it definitely is phenomenal. Like, it was great to enjoy, like, to see Batman be a little bit more Batman, even though I miss the Batman feel from 89, because Batman felt a little bit more like the elusiveness of who Batman is, right? The fact that, like, he'll disappear on you, or shows up on you unexpectedly, right? Something that some of the other Batmans do, but, like, it was a pleasure to have more of that character arc. And I, like, despite having the first 80, having 89 being a very, I think, impactful Batman film, I appreciate that Tim Burton was able to, like, do a little bit more what Tim Burton does in the film. So,
it would have been great to continue to build. We get more depth into Bruce Wayne this time, than we did in the first one. And something that I missed, that I love in the second one, is that Bruce Wayne is invested in Gotham, right? He doesn't want the power plant here. He doesn't want Cobblepot to become mayor. Like, this is the Bruce Wayne who loves his city as Bruce Wayne, but also as Batman, right? And I think that gives him. Michael Keaton does a great job with what's given to him.
Yeah.
Right. And it would have been great for him. Well, let's talk about Selena Kyle, real quick. The two of them. He does such a great job, especially the last scene when they're at, or closer to the end, when they're dancing, they're at Shrek's party. I think for me, if you were to ask me, like, my favorite, like, scene, it would probably be them dancing and, like, having that dialogue between the two of them, where she's struggling to, like, decide what she wants to do. She's fighting, being Catwoman or being Selena, and then they share the line about the mistletoe, and then she immediately goes like, "Oh, are we supposed to fight?"
Yeah.
And Michael Keaton just kind of like, "Well, okay, let's tone it down." And I love that, and I want more of that from this movie, of that dynamic between the two.
Yeah.
But how do we think? How do we feel about Catwoman in general, and Catwoman and Batman in this movie?
I mean, I enjoyed Catwoman in the 60s film, and some of that translates to this too, with when Michelle Pfeiffer goes all cat and starts licking her
Oh boy.
self and all those other things. But
Feisty.
yeah.
Meow.
And yeah, she's got all the one-liners, and at the time I enjoyed them. I know they get laughed about now these days, but I think when it came out, I ate it up, I guess.
I
But,
still eat it up.
Yeah.
She's great in this movie.
We just reviewed Ant-Man, and Michelle Pfeiffer's just
That's right.
She's in that,
there.
and I didn't realize. I was like, oh crap, Michelle Pfeiffer is in this, and going back to back on these two films of like her being in Ant-Man in like more a long or a different aspect of her career, in seeing her in Batman Returns, I am sad that Marvel isn't leveraging her.
Yeah.
Like they didn't leverage her in a better way for Quantumania. It would have been so phenomenal. Because she's an amazing actress.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
and I think you're right. I think that the fact that we have Michael Keaton, I think they were like, you know what, Michael Keaton can do this. They gave him more reign. The fact that those moments with Selena, those were moments that I think really helped depict kind of the playboy debonair who's also who wants connection with females, but also has to battle the fact that he can't have love, right? Even if they want, the female agrees to some degree, but they don't always agree for long.
Yeah.
And I think that Catwoman has always been that character, even in the comics, that like to a degree always comes back, that they're cut from the same cloth. They're both like just crazy enough to do what they do, but to also live a normal life.
I think also I think for me, I love the Bruce Wayne Selena Kyle dynamic. I don't necessarily like the Batman and Catwoman dynamic.
Yes.
I think Catwoman, I mean, it's weird how she's like fighting him and then like reaches down to touch his goods and then like stabs him and then lakes him. I think for like a good Catwoman in Batman.
You don't have a cat, do you? That's what they do.
No, that is what they do. Good point.
It's true.
My cat will scratch me and then purr on me. I don't know.
Good point. But I feel like for a good Catwoman in Batman dynamics, that's good.
Well, I think Sean needs to give us the good Batman. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's
Right.
true. But I feel like what I want from my Catwoman and Batman dynamic is, yes, there's that tension, whether it's sexual tension or just like the flirtiness, but there also has to be like that aspect that you said, like they're cut from the same cloth. And traditionally, Selena tends to be more of like a common thief, right?
Yeah.
She's been portrayed as like a prostitute at times in the comics, whereas Batman is this playboy, comes from wealth, comes from money, and Selena has always had to like fight to survive.
Right.
Yet they always like meet eye to eye.
Right.
And even though they have like differences in values or in just like in life, they come back. And again, going back to like the Batman, the Robert Pattinson one, I love that dynamic in those movies between them more than this one.
We're getting close on time, so these are quality movies.
Yeah.
They're gonna, even in 10 years, we might, they might look at some of them and be like, man, these are old, but they hold up so well. They're good stories. I think in the second one of Batman Returns, at times I feel like it would maybe to some degree it would have been more beneficial if it wasn't so many villains, especially seeing it now. But honestly, when you think about it as just like a duo film, it feels so great to have like this impactful character who's the Joker.
Yeah.
Have like an end, and not only that, but like a closure for Bruce as a Batman, as people who are Batman fans, understanding, like this isn't normal canon, but like this would have been really impactful. This is kind of that plays off, and it's in a movie setting, right? And then coming into this series and not being more canon and whatever. Why do you think that this was the Batman that they chose for the Flash?
Because a couple.
Was that a really crazy jump?
That was, yes.
A couple of reasons. One, I think you're gonna get box office results from it. People.
It's because of my generation that this was our first movie Batman, and no one can ever. I feel like no one can ever touch it, even though there's been, I would agree, better films since then. But he is at least iconic to the 40 plus at this point now, crowd. But
And I think like if you're gonna take like we don't know like the role that Batman's gonna have in the Flash movie yet, right? But if he's gonna be kind of like a mentor, it'll be great to see Michael Keaton be given the monologue, the dialogue, the writing that he deserves. And I think that's what we're gonna see. We're gonna see Bruce Wayne / Batman from Michael Keaton give us the depth that we touch on these movies and that we get glimpses of. But I think we're really gonna get that. And who better than Michael Keaton to like deliver that?
It'll probably give some kind of closure to his Batman, maybe. I mean, I don't know, because he originally was supposed to be in Batman Forever, and things changed and all that, and so
I think rewatching these films and thinking about what's coming to DC,
mm-hmm.
I agree. I agree. I think it's the fact that like he is the Batman, in the sense when it comes to like solidifying Batman as a character in cinema, in like comic book movie culture.
Mm-hmm.
There's Superman. There's nothing to, it was great. But Batman, if someone had money and they had this sort of past, and like, it's like almost like this could possibly become a reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. With Batman. And so I think like to some degree, it's like there is a level of that. And I'm excited to have, like you said, Marcel, the impact of what this comes, because like at the end of the day, I felt like so many of the Batmans we have today have pay tribute to these two Batmans.
Sure. Yeah.
Like I said, I think each Joker that has kind of I'm sure they probably watch some of these films, and or if maybe not, maybe they don't, but they have those influences in their
mm-hmm.
mind as they start to develop their characters. You've got the different moments, I think, like in Dark Knight, and Heath Ledger's Batman and Christian Bale. He's like, hit me. That scene, yeah. It didn't ever click in my mind until rewatching these movies. The same scenario.
Yeah.
Yep. To me, it's like, it's just, this is the Batman cinema is
Tim Burton.
is the Tim Burton Batman.
Tim Burton one.
Yep. Well, and we were talking earlier about Michael Keaton being cast. When Heath Ledger was cast as Joker, there was a lot of backlash over that too, because everybody wanted
Romance Boy.
Well, they wanted Jack Nicholson.
Oh, that's right.
There was that's what they wanted to compare it to, or he knocked that role out of the park, that they just couldn't imagine anyone else taking on that role.
Yeah.
I want to talk one last thing.
Yes.
Every now and then, like, we're in the middle of like award season, right? Like,
yeah.
And oftentimes, like, people will always be like, "Oh, sound design, whatever," and like sometimes we don't give like good recognition to a lot of these elements in film. I want to talk like set design for Batman Returns real quick.
Yes.
When people always ask me like, what's set design and like, why is it important? I always, without fail, tell people to watch Batman Returns, the scene when Selina Kyle walks into her apartment. And we could probably like do an episode on this, like breaking down that scene. But in my opinion, there's great movies that depict this, but this scene when she walks into her apartment for the first time is a perfect way of using set design to tell us about the character.
Yes.
Right? She walks in after a horrible day at work and almost being mugged, wearing just like plain brown suit, right? So boring. Yet her apartment is pink, from not the walls, the cupboards, like the doors, everything's pink.
Neon sign,
the neon sign, right? It, like the chairs are like designed not to be looking at the TV, but they're set up to be facing each other. This is a woman who craves connection, right? Who likes to, and they almost depict it based on the set design, like a young woman who has left home. We know that she's left home, right, and moved to Gotham, and like has a very overbearing mother. It has a boyfriend that just dumps her over voicemail. And we see these elements. And even when she opens her closet, like her closet is very, like she doesn't have like nice dresses. It's just like t-shirt and jeans. Like they use set design to tell us like who she is and what is she craving and what are her hopes and gives us an idea of her as a character, so that after the fall and after she is reborn as a Catwoman, she comes in and just trashes that place down. And we see this awesome evolution of the character from a set design perspective.
Yeah.
It is just so good. It is so good. I love that piece from that movie. Anyways, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to that.
You know, it's funny you say that because and I think, in both these movies, even though they're the title's Batman, I don't feel like they're not necessarily Batman films.
No.
These are Joker's and Catwoman's movies.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
the
for
Penguin,
sure.
like the Penguin's in there, but like you're 100% correct. Like, and I mean, even in both, we have, I would say the first half is more like the evolution of Selene Kyle becomes Catwoman. And the last little bit is more like, battling Penguin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of like weird thing.
Well, his origin is he was born that way, where Catwoman has, just like Joker, a full,
Arc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wrote, did Tim Burton write the scripts for these?
No, it was Sam Hamm and another individual.
Yeah. But I mean, even in this, having Tim Burton take the reins in directing this situation, providing more, like whoever his set design person is, because I think you feel a lot of that too in costume design.
Yeah.
With the Joker in the first one, right? Like the Joker's evolution in his prop usage, and like we mentioned, and Selena Kyle becoming destroying her home, and her like that, what that does to her psyche in that whole for the rest of the film. And I maybe this comes back to my love of villains, or like the villain as the main characters in films are always gonna be the films that I'm probably gonna like the most.
The villains are the fun ones, right?
Yeah.
They get to go and do all the things that I don't know. That'd be fun to do if the law wasn't
Yeah. They have no rules.
They have no
exactly.
rules.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, if you're a screenwriter out there listening to this and you want like cues on how to like incorporate set design, costume design into like tell a character arc, study that scene from Batman Returns. I think it's great.
Phenomenal.
Lastly, we talked about Sam Hamm, the screenplay writer. I don't know if you guys know, but a couple of years ago, DC launched a comic book run of continuing the story of Batman '89 of the Tim Burton. And Sam Hamm, the one of the screenplay writers, came back and wrote this run. And this comic book series picks. It's not what you talked about, like Batman Forever. How Tim Burton. It's not that version of the third Batman, but it takes elements from it, like Marlon Wayans being Robin,
right?
And then Billy D. Williams returning as Two-Face. So it's actually a really cool story, and it picks up from, I think it picks up like a year after Returns. Catwoman is back. It's a great run. I've only read like 3 issues, and it was really good. I need to finish it, but what I read was really good, to the point that DC and Warner Brothers have said this is canon. Like,
oh yeah,
that's cool.
Like they said, like this is official canon on the story. So it'll be interesting going back to the Flash if any elements from that,
if they include anything
from that series.
I guess we're gonna have to do that comic. We'll have to do that comic run.
Yep, I'm gonna have to read that one.
I'll share my login.
Which that's great though, where the end of the film you saw Catwoman basically, and it hinted that
she had one life
we'd
left.
see more, yeah.
She had one life left. Yeah.
I love that. I love that shit. Dead lives.
Yeah, it's such a cool concept to incorporate.
It's so good. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and we love it if you could subscribe on our whatever platform you listen to, as well as listen to us, or even subscribe on YouTube. If you do listen to us on podcast platform of your choice, please give us a star. Give us a review. It does help us to get ranked and show up on other people's feeds.
If you're listening on Spotify, we're always going to have like a Q&A or a poll section at the bottom. Just scroll to the bottom. Feel free to interact with us. We want to hear from you. There's also a way for you to message us on Spotify and to send like voice notes as well. So if you have a lot of thoughts and you want to just share them with us, do so right there on Spotify. It'll say message and you can actually record and let us know what you think of this episode, what you liked, what you don't like about Tim Burton. And yeah, we want to hear from you. Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, where can our listeners find you? If you want to be found.
There's a few places, but I guess I am also a Star Wars collector, so I have a site called powerofthetoys.com. It's needs a huge revamp, but anyway, you can see some pictures from my collection there and some of that kind of stuff. So I guess if anybody wants to, they can find me there.
He's got a great collection.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's a Luke fan, and when we jump into Star Wars, you'll be on again for sure.
Right. Sounds great. Thank you.
If you want to get in touch with us, besides Spotify, again, you can email us at realchums.com. You can find us on Twitter and YouTube at realchums.com. If you want to connect with Danny, you can message Danny on Twitter at Rubio_TV or connect with me at Marstrosity, MARZTROSITY on Twitter.
Join us next week when we discuss our favorite musicals, La La Land. Until next week.
We'll see you guys.